So, hello to our viewers. This is our second episode of our Alumni Story series. My name is Martina. I'm one of the co-founders for Unwrap Hershey, and I'm joined with my friend and fellow HHS alumni, Rosy Zhang.
Hi, I'm Rosy.
So, I asked Rosy to join me to talk a bit about her career path and experiences as an Asian American student, both in college and at Hershey High School. But before we dive into our conversation, Rosy, if you could introduce yourself and give a little on your background.
As Martina said, my name is Rosy. I moved to Hershey in 7th grade, so I started in Hershey Middle School. I graduated from Hershey High School in 2016, and I was involved in clubs like YAG, Science Olympiad, the nerdy stuff. And after that, I went to college at Penn State. I graduated in 2020 with a major in psychology, the quantitative data analysis path, and a minor in global and international studies, the health and environment pathway, and clubs that I was in college were KPMD, which is K-pop Music and Dance Club at Penn State. And I was also in an Asian American interest sorority called Sigma Omicron Pi.
Awesome. And I do want to touch on your career path because I know you went through some changes. I know you were with like computer science at one point. Were you like doing a double major? Can you talk a little bit about from like your year as a freshman to when you graduated, like the different career pivots and interests that you had?
So definitely, well, since my junior year of high school, I had sparked an interest in computer science with Mr. Epley. I'm not sure if he's still there. And it had actually really interested me at the time. And I went in to Penn State as a computer science and psychology double major. Around junior year, I started to get my mental health just started deteriorating a lot. And I really wasn't finding any joy in computer science anymore, and also not really as much passion as my fellow peers were showing. And I just felt like I wasn't happy where I was. And so I decided to stop pursuing computer science and just solely focus on my psychology major. And instead of doing the neuroscience pathway, which I was currently on at the time, I changed to the quantitative data analysis pathway, which allowed me to use a lot of my statistics and computer science courses towards my psych major still, which was very nice. And so I graduated with that psych degree and ended up not doing anything with it because after I graduated, I immediately applied for English teaching jobs, specifically in Korea. I studied abroad in Korea my sophomore year, and I really liked it. And I wanted to come back and have the opportunity to just make money, but also spend some time thinking about what I really want to do. Because as you can see from my paths in college, I don't know what I really want to do with my life. But I think my teaching experience so far has been really great. I think it's a great opportunity for anyone who maybe wants to take a break from higher education, or if they're not sure if they want to go to grad school or continue whatever they want to do, because it is a great experience.
In your case, like sometimes it is good to like break it down, just like to focus on one thing, maybe change career paths, and that's okay. So it's really nice to see how you've been able to maneuver your way and find something to settle on. And that's not like the end, like you're still going, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, I'm trying to think of a nicer word to say than like stupid, but I think it's rather, rather dumb that we pressure a lot of kids to know what they want to do immediately into college. Like I I'm still like considering whether I want to go back to school, like whether it's grad school or law school or like whatever. Because
Yeah.
psychology, the thing I liked about psychology was that it can apply to so many things, but you
Right.
can't do anything with a bachelor's degree in psychology.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's still a lot ahead of me and you, of course. Marketing,
Yeah.
of course, also goes to everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I know when you were in college, like as a freshman, you were in the honors college. But I know that you left it. Can I ask what that process was for you and why you decided to do that?
so yeah, when I went into Penn State, I went as I was in the Shire Honors College as a freshman, and I had really kind of overachieved my first first three
Mm,
semesters actually. I took like so many honors credits. I was doing my best, but I had also actually like really burnt me out. And that was also around the time when I was just not happy with computer science. So I think it kind of coincided with the timing that I wasn't happy with computer science. It wasn't doing well with my mental health, and also just the pressures of the thesis from the
yeah.
honors college. I was really against research. I hate
Mm,
research. Sorry to anybody who does research, but it's not for me. And I just thought it was not something that I wanted to spend my health and like resources on
mhm,
when I
yeah.
could be spending my time on something else that was much more meaningful to like myself, rather than a gong. So I mean, not anyone, like if you completed Charlotte Honors College and you completed a thesis, like that's amazing. Like I couldn't do it. So
Yeah.
but for me, it was just not something I was willing to sacrifice my mental health
Mhm.
for.
To transition into the next topic,
Mm-hmm.
so I just want to ask quickly if you are familiar with the model minority myth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, for those who don't know, who are watching, basically the model minority myth, it's something where the society, especially the American society, we're placing like a narrative that perpetuates stereotypes for the Asian and Asian American community. So, for example, it's like portraying the community as high achievers, constantly achieving straight A's. They're pursuing lucrative careers in STEM, always being polite, and like meeting expectations that are actually really harmful and unnecessary for those in the Asian American community. So, a question I want to ask you, Rosy, is like thinking back to Hershey High School as an Asian student in a majority white community, did you feel like you had those unnecessary expectations and pressures to kind of fit those stereotypes? And if you did, like, how did that impact you as a student?
Definitely in Hershey. I mean, some of it could be probably attributed to my parents, but a lot of it is that pressure of just, I guess, being Asian in Hershey,
Mm-hmm.
especially um, because I moved around a lot when I was little. So being the new kid in Hershey wasn't new to me, and I didn't actually I as a person, I have a hard time keeping friends for a long time just
Mm-hmm.
because that's how I was raised. I would always just have a friend for a year and then, sorry, this might sound off topic, but I'll get there. So I'll have a friend for like a year and then I'll move and then I'll never see them again. So it was hard for me to keep friends definitely in the beginning of my Hershey career. But then
Mm-hmm.
towards my junior year, I finally got to like become close with a lot of with like actual friends that I felt like I could keep. And as it happens, it was the Asian community at Hershey. And I know a lot of people called us the Asians, like the Asian squad or whatever it was. You can tell when people are like, oh, they're smart because they're Asian. And it even happened when I remember in one class, a teacher was mentioning how one of my friends should be getting good grades because she's Asian. And we were all just dumbfounded. We were like, what? Excuse me? And he had compared that to like a different classmate who wasn't Asian. So we were just like, okay, all right. I guess with the model minority myth, I think it definitely played more during senior year when kind of everybody wanted to know like what colleges we got into and stuff like that. So that there was a lot of pressure there as well. But definitely I felt it more in Hershey, let's say, as compared to Penn State, where I had found like a better community to be around. But definitely it was present.
Actually, the example that you talked about with your friend being compared, I was reading an article back a while ago, like about the model minority myth, and it was like exact same scenario that you just mentioned. Like the teacher pulled the student aside, was like, "This isn't how you usually perform. Why aren't you performing like better, you know, and meeting those expectations?" So it's really setting, like our society, we are really setting that unnecessary and harmful expectations, and it just like it hurts our community and gives people the wrong perspective of us. So you did say like near your junior senior year, like you were getting closer with a lot of the Asian community, and something I wanted to ask, like because you were around those Asian peers really often, like did you feel like you needed to have a rigorous academic schedule and activities to be involved in to be just like your peers?
I'd say for me, it was kind of a good thing that that I wanted to be involved in other things. Because when before I had met them, I was really like jumping around a lot in friend groups. I didn't really have any interest. I wasn't in any clubs. Like I didn't really feel like I belonged anywhere within Hershey, like not in sports, not in any club really. But after I had met them and kind of gotten close with them, I was in orchestra, but they really were the ones who kind of introduced me to like YAG, or Youth and Government, for those who don't know, Science Olympiad, and all those. Even though they were academic, they were fun because I was doing it with them. And I did really enjoy kind of branching out and joining those clubs because I wanted to spend more time with them, but it also helped me grow as a person as well. So I don't think there was anything negative to it on my end, but I can definitely see how there might be pressure to do better. But for me, it was more enjoyable than it was pressuring.
I guess to change it up a little bit, how about at Penn State? So I know we are both Penn Staters, and we were both really involved in the Asian community there. So, and you did mention a little earlier that it had a better impact, a really positive impact for you. So I guess my question is, what did having that Asian community mean for you? And like, how was it different from your Hershey experience?
Okay. So with Hershey, I had like a lot of my Asian friends, and I'm very thankful for them. But I never got past the point where, like myself, I was like, oh, I'm proud to be Asian. Like, so just throughout high school, I would always still just think, I cringe when I think about it now, but I know that when I was like at that time, I would always be like, oh, life would be so much easier if I was white. Just all throughout high school. I would have so many more friends. I would be popular. I would have fun at this and this club or something like that. And that feeling probably still perpetuated until my freshman year of college, because Penn State is also a predominantly white institution. Then I did join, as you said, I started to become more active in the Asian American community, or just the Asian community in general at Penn State. I joined a lot of clubs. I joined K-pop music and dance. I joined the Japanese Friendship Association. There was the Asian Undergraduate Student Association, just a whole bunch. And that's honestly is great for Penn State. But I didn't feel that pride in being Asian until I actually did join my sorority, my Asian interest sorority called Sigma Omicron Pi. And I think they really helped me kind of like open my eyes as to like why like being Asian is like shouldn't be a bad thing. Like it was just a lot of unlearning to do from my high school, from my time in Hershey. And even though Penn State still is a predominantly white institution, I just felt a lot of pride being in that Asian American community, because I'm sure you know as well, like there's a difference in just being separated in the in Hershey High School, because I feel like in Hershey, when like we were separated, when Asians were separated, it was more like, oh, the other kids just don't want to hang out with us, or the other kids like don't like feel like they can hang out with us because we're Asian or something like that. Whereas at Penn State, it was more like appreciating Asian culture and being proud of your roots, and being Asian was being like appreciated rather than being weird. Yeah,
I love that for you. That's really awesome, because I think that's an issue that a lot of Asian Americans struggle with, like feeling they're not, like their culture is not being appreciated. It's being made fun of because of their Asian identity. Like sometimes their last names are being mocked and laughed at and whatever. And it felt really bad. And like, I just hated it. But I think for me, I tried to like stay low and not be seen or heard, because I didn't want to be the next target. So I definitely understand like your mentality back then. And then in terms of like at Penn State, like you said, like I really love that you were able to unlearn and really appreciate your identity a lot more. And I hope that's something that a lot of the students at Penn State who are Asians are doing that, because it's a struggle from like when you're born to right now. Like it's something that people so having that pride is really, really important. So
yeah, and it's definitely like, I don't want to make it seem like it's an easy thing to do at Penn State, because Penn State has its problems. But I'd say it's definitely a more open environment than Hershey is.
Just to like wrap things up, those are all the questions I had for you today. But as a final question, do you have any advice for, well, this could go two ways. So take your pick. Do you have any advice for those who are uncertain about their career path, or like any advice for those for like Asian and Asian American students?
I can do both.
Yeah, go for
Let me think. As for uncertain career paths, this is easier said than done, but like chill. Like high school students and college students are so young, and I'm still not on my career path yet. And yeah, it does stress me out sometimes, but it's never too late to figure out what you want to do. And I understand that there is pressure from parents and family and all that, especially in the Asian American community. But in the end, if you really feel like that's something that's bothering you or stressing you out, talk to your parents about it. communication it's great.
Mm-hmm.
And also don't put that unnecessary stress on yourself, or try not to. I know it's a big thing to say don't, but try not to put that unnecessary stress on yourself, and just do things. Like, figure out, like, if you want to maybe get into marketing, maybe try seeing, like, making your own little project and see if you actually like marketing, right? If you want to maybe change your career to computer science, take a coding bootcamp class. Like, don't be afraid to just try whatever you want. And I come from like a very privileged point to be able to say that. But I do think it's worth investing in your future. So as for Asian Americans in school, I would say, again, I feel like I come from a very privileged privileged place where my parents were very understanding of my situations. And I know that a lot of Asian parents are not as understanding. But I do think for us, especially, mental health is very, very important. And making sure that if you want to do great in school, that's good, but make sure you're doing it for you and not for the GPA and not for your parents, right? Just make sure that whatever you're doing, you're happy with it and you feel like it's meaningful to you, and you're not trying, like, you don't have to prove yourself to anybody.
Well, that was really great advice, and it's something that I would also agree to. So thank you so much for sharing your perspective on that. But just like, thank you in general for taking the time to meet with me and talk about your experiences. I'm sure it'll be really helpful for all the students out there, and it was really nice to learn about your perspective. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.